Brother, you think she's fine because she's quiet. That's what every man thinks before he learns what silence really means. At first it looks harmless. She's calm, unbothered, maybe even glowing. You tell yourself, she just needed space. But that's where most men get fooled. Because when a woman goes quiet after pulling away, it isn't peace you're seeing. It's pride pretending not to care. Beneath that calm is a storm waiting to be triggered, and your silence is what lights the fuse. See, what no one tells you is this. Women don't panic right away. They rationalize first. They'll tell themselves they're fine, that you'll reach out soon, that the story still belongs to them. But the longer you stay silent, the louder their thoughts get. Because women don't measure connection through words, they measure it through energy. And when your energy disappears, her ego starts to suffocate. Before we go deeper, pause for a second. Like this video and subscribe to Stoic Station, because today we're not talking about manipulation, we're talking about mastery. Drop a 1 if she acted calm when you pulled away. Drop a 2 if you could already sense the storm coming. Start this journey now. In this video, we'll go deep into what truly happens in a woman's mind when you go silent, the stages, the shifts, and the exact moment when your calm becomes her confusion. Because silence isn't just absence, brother. It's a mirror, and it reveals more truth than any argument ever could. So pay close attention. The moment you stop reaching out, it doesn't feel like nothing to her. It feels like a shift in the air, like a door quietly closing in a room she thought she controlled. And that is where the first phase begins. Phase 1. The shock of silence. Her ego meets the void. When you stop reaching out, it doesn't feel like nothing to her. It feels like a shift in the air. It feels like a door quietly closing in a room she thought she controlled. Your silence, steady, calm, deliberate, becomes the loudest sound in her world. And the most unsettling part for her is that she never saw it coming. She thought she had time. She thought she could pull back a little, test you, make you prove yourself. She thought she could be distant and you would chase. That was the pattern. That was the rhythm. She would withdraw and you would rush in to fix it. But suddenly, you didn't. And that moment, brother, is the first break in her illusion of power. At first, she'll tell herself a story so she doesn't have to feel the impact. She'll say, "It's fine. I needed space anyway." She'll tell her friends she's over it. She'll post like she's glowing. She'll smile wider in every picture. And she'll move the way someone moves when they're trying to prove they're untouched. On the surface, she looks free. But under that surface, something new is happening, and it's not freedom. It's awareness. Her mind starts scanning her day and noticing what's missing, and the thing that's missing is not just you. It's the attention she was used to receiving from you, the check-in, the good morning, the reassurance, the presence, the safety, that quiet constant you gave her. She had treated it like background noise. Now that it's gone, she can hear how loud the emptiness is. Attention to a woman is emotional oxygen. This is not weakness. This is wiring, connection, reassurance, being seen, being chosen by you. That is where her nervous system relaxes. That is where her ego feels secure. And when you remove that attention, her ego starts to suffocate. This is why her reaction to your silence is not just sadness. It's agitation. It's discomfort in the body. It's, "Why is he not calling?" mixed with, "Why am I even thinking about this?" When you stop feeding her with that steady stream of presence, her nervous system starts looking for air. And that's when the scramble begins. She'll try to fill the silence with noise. She'll start distracting herself, lining up plans, chasing attention from other people, maybe even letting another man orbit just close enough to prove to herself that she's still desired. She'll go louder online, brighter, more active, like she's living her best life. But the truth is, it's not happiness she's chasing in that moment. It's reassurance. She wants proof that she still has power, proof that she's still wanted, proof that she can still pull gravity when she wants it. But here's what makes this phase brutal for her. None of it hits the same. None of that noise replaces the specific calm she felt around you. Every new conversation feels thinner. Every fake smile feels heavier. She's moving, but she's not steady. She's talking, but she's not at peace. And deep down, she knows why. That's the first time she starts to see you clearly. Not as the man who wanted her, but as the man who kept her centered. And this is important. You don't tell her any of this. You don't explain your silence. You don't defend it. You don't announce it. You just step back and hold your ground. Your silence is doing what words never could. It's showing her that you were the calm, not the chaos. You were not chasing her because you were desperate. You were present because that's who you are. And the moment you removed that presence, the imbalance in her own emotions revealed itself without you having to say a single thing. This is also where you start to feel the difference inside yourself. Because for the first time in a long time, you're not reacting to her moods. You're not begging to be understood. You're not trying to convince someone to value what you were already giving for real. You're not turning yourself into a salesman for your own heart. Instead, you're doing the one thing most men are never taught to do. You're letting the silence speak. You're letting reality sit. You're letting her feel the cost of losing the energy she thought would always be there. That is power. That is self-respect in motion. Here's what most men miss about this stage. In the beginning, she doesn't actually miss you. That's hard to hear, but you need to hear it. At this stage, she misses control. She misses the version of the story where she always knew you'd be available, where she could pull back and you'd lean in, where she could test how far she could push you without ever having to lose you. She is not grieving love yet. She's grieving her position. But that is exactly why this phase matters, because that first crack in her sense of control is the doorway to something deeper. Once a woman realizes she can no longer predict you, something fundamental shifts inside her. The game is no longer cute. The distance is no longer space. The silence is no longer a bluff. It becomes real. And when it becomes real, it stops threatening her ego and starts touching her emotions. That's when what used to feel like pride turns into what starts to feel like loss. That's when her mind stops asking, "Why isn't he chasing me?" and starts asking, "Did I just lose something I wasn't supposed to lose?" And that, brother, is where the next phase begins, the rewiring. This is where she stops arguing with your silence and starts romanticizing your presence. This is where missing control turns into missing you. Phase 2. The emotional rewiring. Her mind starts romanticizing you. Here's where it gets dangerous for her and powerful for you. When a woman can no longer feel your presence, her memory edits reality. This is the moment her mind stops telling her the truth and starts telling her a story. She stops remembering the tension, the disagreements, the distance that led to the silence in the first place. Instead, she starts remembering the warmth, the way you made her laugh without trying, the way your voice settled her when she was spinning, the way you made her feel seen in a world that keeps telling her to perform. She doesn't replay the part where she pushed you away. She replays the part where you pulled her close and told her she was safe. That shift is not an accident. It's biology. It's psychology. It's emotion trying to protect her from loss. In her loneliness, she begins rewinding moments in her head like old film reels. She replays little details most men assume women forget. How you looked at her when she was talking about something that mattered and you were actually listening. How she would lean into you and feel her body relax because for once, she didn't have to carry everything alone. How the room always felt quieter when you were there, not because you demanded attention, but because your presence calmed the noise. She can still hear the sound of your voice in contrast to the voices she hears now. She can still feel the peace she once felt around you, and it hits her that she doesn't feel that peace anymore. Not from friends, not from distractions, not from men who orbit just to be entertained by her. You are gone, and the peace is gone with you. But here's the part almost no one says out loud. In this phase, she doesn't realize what's actually happening. She thinks she's missing you, and that's how she'll tell it to herself. That's how she'll tell it to her closest friend. But if you look deeper, that's not exactly true. She's not missing you yet. She's missing the version of herself that existed around you. She's missing how your energy allowed her to feel softer, more feminine, more open, more grounded. She's missing the way you made her feel important without her having to fight for it. She's missing the version of her that felt chosen. That is what hurts, because that version of her has been disrupted, and the mind panics when identity is disrupted. This is where something very old and very human kicks in. The human paradox. The more unreachable you become, the more desirable she finds you. Scarcity creates value. When you were always available, your energy felt normal, familiar, safe, constant. Now that you've stepped out of her reach, that same energy becomes rare. The absence turns you from a man into a memory, and memory turns into myth. Your silence gives her room to rewrite you in her own mind. She begins to elevate you. She starts assigning weight, depth, and meaning to things you said casually. She'll tell herself, "He understood me in a way nobody else does." She'll tell herself, "He actually cared." She'll even tell herself, "Maybe I misjudged him." Absence lets her craft a cleaner story than reality ever was. And that is why giving her space works. Not because space is a trick, not because silence is manipulation. It works because space forces her to finally feel the contrast between your energy and everyone else's emptiness. She's now having conversations that feel loud but hollow, playful but shallow. She's surrounded by noise, by attention, by offers, and yet nothing reaches the same depth, the same calm, the same grounded masculine presence. She starts to understand that what you brought wasn't drama, wasn't pressure, wasn't chaos. What you brought was stability, leadership, emotional safety, a place for her nervous system to land. That is not easy for a woman to find, and when she loses it, she feels that loss in her body before she admits it with her mouth. This is the quiet birth of longing. She starts to crave your calm again. That is very specific language. She does not crave you blowing up her phone. She does not crave you proving yourself. She craves your calm. She craves the way she could breathe around you. And she starts craving it not because you chased, but because you disappeared with grace. That part matters. You didn't beg. You didn't argue. You didn't explode, block, make a scene, or write long paragraphs trying to force her to understand what you were worth. You simply allowed yourself to no longer be accessible. You stepped back in silence and let reality talk for you. Whether you know it or not, that alone begins to change how she sees you. You stop being the man she thought she could predict. You become the man she's now afraid to lose for real. And this is where you, as a grown man, have to stay disciplined, because this is the point where she starts to move toward you again, emotionally, but she won't admit it yet. She will test first. She'll circle you, she'll watch you, she'll study your presence like a signal. She'll start quietly checking if your world is still open to her. She may not reach out directly yet, but her thoughts are already reaching out. She's already in motion. The emotional rewiring has begun. And right here, right in this phase, is the setup for what comes next. When she starts to feel this pull, she doesn't immediately come forward with honesty. Most women don't. Pride won't let that happen yet. Instead, she goes into performance. That's the next move. The louder she acts like she's fine, the more you'll know she's not. The more she performs indifference, the more she's losing control. That performance is not confidence. That performance is panic wearing perfume, and that, brother, is phase 3. Phase 3, the performance of indifference. Acting fine, feeling lost. When she's posting more, laughing louder, and performing like she's already moved on, that's usually the moment she's the furthest from okay. This is the phase most men misread, because on the surface she looks untouchable. She's out, she's smiling, she's dressed like she's never been hurt in her life. She's tagging friends, showing skin, showing energy, showing life goes on. To the outside world, she looks free. But you, brother, need to understand what's actually happening underneath that performance. What you're watching isn't confidence, it's survival. Because she can feel that your silence is working, and her pride won't let her admit that. Not to you, and not even to herself. Her pride needs a story where she's still in control. She doesn't want to feel like she's the one suddenly chasing your attention. She doesn't want to feel like your distance is affecting her. She still wants to look strong, not vulnerable. That is why she starts performing. She's not just living, she's broadcasting. There's a difference. She's curating proof, new selfies, louder nights out, places she knows you'll see. She might even put another man in the frame. Not necessarily because she wants him, but because she wants you to see she could have him. All of that is for an invisible audience. All of that is designed around the hope that you're still watching. This isn't about him, it's about you. But there's a crack in that strategy, and this is where you begin to hold real ground as a man. The whole point of the performance is to pull a reaction from you. If she can make you jealous, angry, emotional, reactive, then she tells herself, he still cares. I still have pull. I still sit in the center of this. Your reaction would let her keep her story. Your reaction would let her believe she didn't lose anything. But every time you don't respond, every time you don't swipe up, don't message, don't take the bait, the act loses its purpose. Attention is the currency of ego, and you've stopped paying. That's when the performance stops feeling like attention and starts feeling like exposure. She begins to notice that she's giving energy to the performance, and you're giving energy to nothing. She's trying to prove she doesn't miss you, and you're not trying to prove anything. That imbalance burns her pride more than any argument ever could. On the surface, she's still loud. Inside, she's starting to panic. Because here's what's really happening. By day, she performs. By night, she replays. She'll make noise in public, but at night, the quiet hours turn her show into self-reflection. This is where the first honest questions show up and haunt her. What if he doesn't care anymore? What if I pushed him too far? What if I ran the game too long and he finally learned to stop playing? She's not just thinking about what you did. She's thinking about what she did. She's replaying the moment she ignored you, the moment she tested you, the moment she thought you'd always be there no matter how cold she acted. She's replaying it because now, for the first time, she can feel the cost. Men ask, does she miss me at this point? The truth is, in this exact phase, she's not fully in missing you mode yet. She is in losing control mode. She's feeling that your silence is stripping her of the emotional leverage she was used to. She's noticing she can't pull from you what she used to pull on command, and that feeling, that loss of control, is what creates pressure, fear, and eventually desire. She feels herself slipping from the position she believed she'd never lose. That's why this stage is so loud on the outside and so unsettled on the inside. She is fighting the reality that your absence is not a tantrum, it's a boundary. Your job in this phase is not to fix her confusion. Your job is not to soothe her ego or explain your silence. You don't chase, you don't explain. You let her ego burn itself out against your silence. That's not cruelty, that's leadership, that's discipline, that's emotional maturity. Because if you rush in and try to reassure her right now, you reset everything back to the old pattern where her pride sits above your peace. You're not here anymore. You're not begging to be chosen. You're not raising your hand to prove you're still available. You are allowing reality to teach her what your words could never teach her. You are not replaceable background noise. You were the calm in the room. And slowly, something begins to happen that she didn't prepare herself for. She begins to feel the truth beneath the performance. Indifference that's real doesn't perform. If you're truly done with somebody, you don't schedule your healing to be seen by them. You don't upload your moving on. You don't try to manufacture proof that you're unaffected. You just live and you don't look back. Deep down, she knows that. Deep down, she can feel the difference. Her behavior is still about you. Your behavior stopped being about her. That's why this phase hurts her more than it hurts you. She's forced to face a quiet reality. You've stopped acting long ago. You're no longer trying to prove your value. You're living it. You're no longer trying to be chosen. You're choosing yourself. You're no longer chasing the version of her that needed to be convinced. You're walking toward the version of you that doesn't need convincing. And that energy, that grounded self-possession, is exactly what pulls her deeper into the next phase. Because once the show stops working, she can't hide behind pride anymore. She has to sit with fear. And fear is where uncertainty begins. That uncertainty is phase 4. Phase 4, the spiral of uncertainty, when overthinking takes over. Uncertainty is a woman's emotional gravity. It pulls her deeper the more she resists it. You need to understand how powerful that is, because this is the point where silence stops being a tactic and becomes a psychological event inside her. Up until now, she could still pretend she was in control. She had her pride, her performance, her story. But in this phase, her mind starts slipping out of her hands. She's no longer directing the emotion. The emotion is directing her. And the trigger is simple. She can't read you anymore. Before, she could count on you reacting. She could count on you answering. She could count on you explaining yourself, defending yourself, fighting for your place in her life. You used to react, text back, explain. You used to tell her where you stood so she never had to fear it. That was her safety net. But now you're silent, and she realizes she doesn't have access to that safety anymore. A woman can accept losing attention faster than she can accept losing certainty. The attention feeds her ego, but certainty feeds her nervous system. Certainty lets her sleep. When you go quiet, you're not just withholding attention, you're removing emotional certainty. So her mind starts racing because it has nowhere to rest. This is where the questions come in hard and come in late at night. Did I lose him? Is he seeing someone else? Did I push too far? Understand how layered those questions are. Did I lose him? Is about loss. Is he seeing someone else? Is about threat. Did I push too far? Is about responsibility. She is now cycling through fear, jealousy, and guilt all at once, and you didn't say a single word to cause it. Your silence did it. Your stillness did it. Your refusal to bleed emotionally on demand did it. That's why this is the most dangerous phase for her emotionally. She is finally being forced to feel what you felt. The silence becomes unbearable because she can't control it. That's the core of this phase. Control was her comfort. Control was how she kept her confidence. Control was how she convinced herself, no matter what, I'm still in the position of power here. Your distance removes that. There's nothing to grab, nothing to manipulate, nothing to decode. She can't steer your energy anymore, and because she can't steer it, she can't predict it. That loss of control doesn't feel like losing a guy. It feels like the ground moving under her feet. And that's when her behavior starts to look obsessive in small, quiet, unspoken ways. She starts scrolling your profile, not casually, but hunting for emotional evidence. She starts paying attention to when you're active, who you follow, what you post, what you like. She watches your stories from fake accounts or from a friend's phone because she wants to see if you're alive in the way she remembers you, or if you've already become someone she can't reach anymore. All of this is to feed her craving for emotional certainty. She's trying to answer a question she cannot stand living with. Where do I stand with him right now? That question is a constant tension in her chest. She's not thinking about forever. She's thinking about right now. She wants emotional clarity in the present moment, because without it, she feels displaced in her own story. Now here's what matters for you as a man in this phase. You stay still. You let her sit in the not knowing. You don't break silence just to relieve her anxiety, because that anxiety is the first honest emotional mirror she's had to face. And yes, this sounds cold if you hear it with ego, but it's not cruelty, it's honesty. You're allowing her to feel cause and effect. You're allowing her to experience the weight of her actions without you carrying it for her. And you're allowing yourself to breathe without having to constantly explain yourself to earn permission to be at peace. That's not punishment. That's discipline, that's self-respect. A lot of men sabotage this phase because they fold the moment they sense she's uncomfortable. She'll send something passive to test the waters. Hey stranger, you've been quiet. You forgot about me already. And most men take that hook as victory and rush right back in with full emotion. But understand this clearly. In that first reach, she's not coming back for love. She's coming back for certainty. She wants to calm her own mind. She wants to confirm she can still get a response from you. If you give her full access the moment she seeks relief, you teach her that your energy is still hers to pull on demand. You reset the old balance and you lose everything you've built. Emotional power lives in the space she can't predict. Your stillness is not game playing. Your stillness is you choosing not to live in a state of constant emotional availability for somebody who hasn't earned it. You are no longer giving emergency reassurance to someone who helped create the emergency. You are standing in one of the most masculine positions a man can take. I am available to peace. I am no longer available to chaos. That alone changes how she sees you, not as the man she can move, but as the man who moves himself. And this is where the table truly turns, because now she's living the version of the story you once lived. You used to overthink her distance. You used to worry about what she was feeling, who she was talking to, whether you'd already lost her and just didn't know it yet. You used to sit in that restless space between messages, trying to decode silence like it was a language. Now she's the one doing that work. She's the one overthinking. She's the one refreshing. She's the one wondering if she's already been replaced. She's the one asking, did I matter, or did I just imagine that I did? You're no longer the one chasing certainty. She is. And that shift matters because it sets up the next phase. At first, uncertainty only scares her, but then something else happens. That fear hardens into humility. That humility turns into reflection. That reflection becomes regret. And regret, brother, is where she stops defending herself and starts seeing you clearly. That's the doorway to Phase 5. Phase 5. The humbling realization, when silence becomes her mirror. There is a moment, and it always comes later than she expects, when the silence stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like truth. Up until now, she could tell herself a story about you. She could paint you as dramatic, sensitive, too attached, doing too much. She could tell herself that you went quiet because you were trying to get a reaction out of her, that you were trying to play a game, that you were trying to make her chase. That story keeps her ego safe. But then something inside her shifts. The silence stretches, it holds, and it does not come with anger, begging, or desperate follow-ups. And because you're not chasing, your silence suddenly can't be framed as manipulation anymore. It becomes something harder to argue with. It becomes honest. That's when she has to sit in a place she's been avoiding the entire time. Accountability. This is where she begins to see her part in the collapse, not yours, hers. Every ignored text starts replaying in her mind. Every time you reached out trying to connect and she answered cold. Every time she pushed you away just to see if you'd pull harder. Every test she threw at you because she wanted to see whether you'd break before she did. All of it comes back to her, not as memory but as weight. She starts to understand that she wasn't protecting herself. She was eroding a man who was trying to love her in good faith, and that's where her chest tightens, because for the first time she can't hide behind "he wasn't enough." She has to face "I wasn't careful." Then another truth surfaces, and for a lot of women this is the part that stings the deepest. She realizes your kindness wasn't weakness, it was leadership. The patience you had with her wasn't you being needy. It was you choosing to be steady on days she couldn't control her own emotions. You were calm because you cared, not because you were afraid to lose her. You showed up because your nature is to show up, not because you didn't have options. And that reframe does something violent to her ego, because she built comfort on the idea that you needed her more than she needed you. But in the silence, she sees that wasn't true. You weren't begging. You were investing. You weren't helpless. You were committed. That's a different story. That's the story she didn't want to admit when she still had you. And now that steadiness is gone. That is the breaking point for her. The calm she once mistook for routine turns out to have been her anchor. She realizes she felt balanced around you, regulated, grounded, safe. She realizes that she could be messy and you would center her, that she could be emotional and you would not escalate, that she could fall apart and you would hold the frame. She thought that was normal. She thought that was baseline. She thought that guys are supposed to do that. Only now, in your absence, is she discovering how rare that actually was. She can get attention from anyone. She can get compliments from anyone. She can get excitement from anyone. But she cannot get that steadiness from just anyone. The steadiness was you. The guilt doesn't hit her like a dramatic collapse. It doesn't show up as her crying on the floor with mascara running. That image is fantasy. The reality is quieter and honestly more brutal. The guilt creeps in quietly, almost politely. It's not loud remorse. It's subtle awareness. It sounds like, "He wasn't the problem. I was careless." It sounds like, "He wasn't too much. I treated something solid like it was disposable because I thought it would never leave." That's the moment her pride swallows itself. It's hard for her to admit, even privately, that she contributed to losing something good. Most people would rather believe they were abandoned than admit they mishandled loyalty. But in this phase, she can't dodge that anymore. It's sitting in front of her. And here's where your role, as a man, becomes more important than you think. Your silence has become her teacher. You didn't scream. You didn't lecture. You didn't beg her to understand how she hurt you. You didn't write long paragraphs hoping she would finally get it. You didn't perform. You just removed access, and in doing so, you gave her the one thing she could never feel while you were still available: contrast. That contrast is not revenge. It's reflection. It forces her to see herself without the comfort of your presence cleaning up her emotional mess for her. It forces her to confront that her actions had impact, and that impact cost her something real. When she finally understands that your peace wasn't for her, but for yourself, regret takes root. That's the first real turning point. Because the moment she understands that your peace is not a tool to win her back, but a boundary to protect your own center. She can no longer tell herself, "He'll come back when I let him." She has to face the possibility that you're not coming back at all, not because you hate her, not because you're trying to hurt her, but because you've chosen yourself. And that is a different kind of loss. That loss hits deeper than jealousy, deeper than missing the attention, deeper than pride. It's the loss of access to your steadiness. It's the loss of being grounded by you. This is the seed of transformation for her and for you. For her, because this is the first time she is humbled by the reality that love is not guaranteed just because she wants it on her terms. And for you, because this is the first time you fully recognize that your value was never in how loudly you loved her, but in how calmly you could exist without her. This is where you stop identifying yourself as the man who was hurt, and you start recognizing yourself as the man who became unshakable. And that shift in you, that quiet rebirth, is exactly what pulls her into the next phase, the one where curiosity turns into desire and desire turns into pursuit. That's where the power flips for good. Phase 6. The reversal of power, when curiosity turns into desire. The same silence that once confused her now fascinates her. What used to irritate her, your calmness, your unavailability, your refusal to play along, now pulls her in. Because in her world, every man eventually bends. Every man breaks the silence. Every man tries to prove that he still cares. But you didn't. And that changes everything. She expected you to chase. She expected you to prove her importance, to re-establish her control. But instead, you disappeared into peace. You stopped reacting. You stopped needing to explain. You stopped existing in her emotional script, and that unsettled her more than any argument ever could. The absence that once felt like victory to her now feels like imbalance. She's not sure when it happened, but the moment she realized she no longer knew what you were thinking, that's when curiosity began to replace pride. Now she's watching your every move, quietly, carefully. She won't admit it, not even to her closest friends, but she's checking your profile, scanning who you follow, what you post, what energy you radiate now that she's no longer part of your life. She's not searching for closure anymore. Closure would mean it's over. She's looking for reassurance, proof that she still holds a place somewhere in your mind. But she doesn't find it. Because your calmness, your subtle indifference, your ability to exist without her validation, it unsettles her. Every short reply, every delay, every unread message becomes a riddle she can't solve. Every scene with no response feels heavier than any angry paragraph. Every moment you don't rush to engage quietly shifts the power dynamic in her mind. She used to measure her worth by how quickly you'd react. Now she has to face a version of you that doesn't react at all, and that version of you is powerful. She starts to question everything she once believed about you. The man she thought she had figured out suddenly feels unpredictable. That unpredictability becomes emotional gravity. She feels it pulling at her every time she tries to move on. She can't admit it, but the emotional chase has begun again. Only this time, she's the one running. And what makes it more intense is that there's no clear goal. She's not chasing to win. She's chasing to understand, to make sense of the piece she once called boring, to decode the man who no longer needs to be decoded. At night, that curiosity turns into restlessness. She'll stare at her phone longer than she admits, thinking about what you might be doing, whether you're seeing someone, whether you still think of her at all. Every thought creates tension, and the irony is you don't have to say a single word to create it. Your silence is the conversation now. It's what fills her mind when the world goes quiet. But here's the key, brother. This is not the moment to gloat. This is not the moment to throw your silence in her face as victory. The masculine mistake is to interpret her curiosity as submission. It's not submission yet. It's intrigue. Intrigue that can grow into respect or dissolve into resentment depending on how you handle it. The difference lies in your composure. You stay composed. You respond with warmth but no attachment. You show presence but not pursuit. You remain polite, grounded, and consistent, but never emotionally available on demand. Because she must feel the distance she once forced. She must experience the uncertainty she made you sit through. Not as revenge, but as balance. This is the law of emotional correction. The energy you once gave freely must now cost her effort. The more you hold your peace, the more she feels the difference between men who chase and men who lead. She begins to see that your silence was never avoidance. It was awareness. That your calm wasn't cold, it was control. And that realization changes the way she looks at you. You stop being the man she tested and start becoming the man she respects. Respect is what she wanted all along, but she didn't know how to give it until you stopped asking for it. That's when she stops trying to win you back and starts trying to understand you. And understanding is where true attraction is born. Because a woman can lust after a man she doesn't respect, but she can only love the one she admires. That admiration is the rarest form of desire, the kind that grows slowly, silently, and deeply. It's the kind of pull that keeps her thinking long after the conversation ends, wondering not, does he still want me? But, how did I ever lose a man like that? And that question, that quiet surrender of ego into awe, is the sign that the power has fully reversed. You no longer exist in her world as a memory she controls. You exist as a mystery she reveres. The same silence that once broke her patience now builds her fascination, and as she tries to understand it, she begins to feel what you felt, that peace isn't distance, it's power. And just like that, the balance shifts forever, because she's no longer driven by dominance, she's driven by desire. And you, the man who no longer chases, become the very thing she can't stop chasing. Phase 7. The Awakening. When she sees the man you've become. There will come a day when she looks at you, maybe in person, maybe through a screen, maybe just in memory, and realizes that you're not the same man she left behind. It doesn't hit her all at once. It arrives slowly, quietly, in moments that catch her off guard. The way you speak now, the way you move with calm instead of tension, the way your eyes don't search for approval anymore. Something inside her recognizes it before her pride can deny it. You've grown. You're no longer the man who tried to prove his worth through her attention. You've become a man who carries his worth in silence. Her heart begins to feel what her ego fought so hard to ignore. You've changed, not to impress her, not to win her back, but because you finally learned to choose peace over performance. The man she once believed would always chase her validation now walks in his purpose. You live in your peace, and that realization unsettles her, because it exposes the truth she never expected to face. You never needed her permission to evolve. When she reaches out again, and she will, it won't be for closure. It won't even be about reconnection. It will be because your silence forced her to see you clearly for the first time. In that stillness, she began to understand the difference between the man she imagined and the man you actually are. Your absence held up a mirror that showed her everything she overlooked when you were around. The patience she once mistook for weakness was discipline. The quiet she called indifference was wisdom. The distance she took as punishment was actually your rebirth. But old habits die hard, so when she does return, don't be surprised when she tests your composure again. Not with anger or manipulation this time, but with softness. A casual message, a familiar tone, a memory dropped into conversation. Remember when we... She's not doing it to hurt you. She's doing it to feel something again. She's reaching for the emotional rhythm that once centered her, but this time the rhythm doesn't exist anymore. You've stopped moving to her emotional tempo, and that's when she realizes she's not the one leading this dance anymore. She'll try to draw out emotion from you, the spark, the warmth, the attention she used to control with ease. She wants to feel that old power, to confirm that she still matters in your world, but she won't find it. Because now you're untouchable, not cold, not arrogant, simply at peace. The difference is profound. You don't carry bitterness. You don't carry resentment. You carry understanding, and that understanding makes you calm in a way she can't replicate. It's the calm of a man who no longer fights for closure because he realized that peace is closure. You no longer engage to prove anything. You no longer explain to be understood. You've learned that the loudest form of strength is restraint. That silence wasn't your weapon. It was your transformation. You didn't go quiet to punish her. You went quiet to protect your spirit. You didn't withdraw to win. You let go to grow. That's the difference she never saw before. You evolved not in reaction to her absence, but in response to your own awakening. And when she finally sees that, when she recognizes that your silence wasn't emptiness but elevation, something shifts inside her. The pride that once kept her distant begins to dissolve. What fills its place is something deeper: admiration, respect, a quiet awe. She may miss you, she may regret you, she may even tell herself she wants you back. But she also knows something more powerful, that the story has already changed. You are no longer the man waiting for her acknowledgement. You are the man who no longer needs it. Your silence didn't just make her feel your absence, it made you find yourself. That's what she never expected, that in losing your attention, she'd lose her grip while you would find your freedom. And that freedom changed everything about the way you move, speak, and exist. You no longer chase emotions. You master them. You no longer define yourself by who stays or who leaves. You define yourself by how you stand when everyone else wavers. And that, brother, is when she truly awakens, not just to your worth, but to her own mistakes. She begins to understand that she didn't lose a man. She lost an anchor, a presence that didn't demand, but grounded. And while she might spend months trying to rebuild what she once took for granted, you'll already be miles ahead, not because you ran, but because you evolved. That's the beauty of silence done right. It doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. It doesn't isolate you from love, it connects you back to yourself. So when she finally looks at you and says, "You've changed," smile, because she's right. You've become the man she could never break, and the one she'll never forget. And as she fades into the memory of who she used to be, you carry forward as the man you were always meant to become, grounded, peaceful, whole. The silence that once felt heavy now feels holy, because it didn't just rebuild your strength, it revealed it. And that revelation, that calm, unshakable peace, that's your awakening. When you give a woman space and stay silent, brother, you're not punishing her. You're proving your peace. You're showing that love without balance isn't love at all, and that silence isn't weakness. It's awareness. Because through every phase, from her confusion to your calm, the lesson was never about her reaction. It was about your evolution. So if this truth spoke to you, don't let it fade when the video ends. Anchor it, like this video, so other men can find it when they need strength. And subscribe to Stoic Station to keep walking this path of quiet power. Tell me below, when you finally stopped chasing and chose silence, what shifted inside you? Did it break you? or build you. Until next time, may you guard your peace like treasure, walk with steady confidence, and remember this simple truth. Silence isn't the end of a story. It's the beginning of your strength. Stay grounded, stay free, stay unshaken.